Remember that clumsy robot dog who was supposed to help a superhero but mostly caused disasters?
It's the Blue Falcon and Dog Wonder! You're in full command now, Dog.
Dynomutt wasn't just another Hanna-Barbera action show. It was a desperate attempt to clone Scooby-Doo's success by creating the world's most incompetent crime-fighting canine paired with a Batman ripoff. Today, we're counting down 40 wild facts about the mechanical mutt.
Good. He's fearless, scareless, a little too careless. Dynomutt!
Who proved even superheroes can't overcome terrible sidekicks.
He's a go-go dog person. That's me, Dog Wonder.
And that Saturday morning television would greenlight literally anything in the 1970s. 40. It was created as a Scooby-Doo clone. Hanna-Barbera created Dynomutt explicitly to replicate Scooby-Doo's massive success.
So anyway, we threw Scooby in there, and we had some personality touches, which were great. In other words,
by featuring another bumbling dog character in mystery-solving adventures. Executives demanded writers create Scooby-Doo, but with superheroes, to capitalize on both the talking dog formula and the superhero trend following Super Friends' popularity. The similarities were shameless. Both featured cowardly dogs, mystery-solving, comedic incompetence, and catchphrase-heavy dialogue. Even the character designs followed similar aesthetics, with exaggerated features and slapstick movement. The calculated copying demonstrated Hanna-Barbera's business model of endlessly recycling successful formulas rather than developing original concepts. 39. The Blue Falcon was a blatant Batman ripoff. The Blue Falcon was legally distinct Batman, wealthy socialite Radley Crown with secret identity, high-tech cave headquarters called the Falcon's Lair, advanced vehicles, and mission to fight crime in big city.
They are my enemies, I must remember. Now to put on my Falcon Instant Vacuum Cleaner salesman disguise.
Character designers copied Batman's cape, cowl, utility belt, and even the Batmobile's design with minimal modifications to avoid DC Comics lawsuits. The character had no personality beyond being competent straight man to Dynomutt's incompetence. Voice actor Gary Owens performed Blue Falcon using his Space Ghost voice with minimal variation.
Crime is never smart.
Blue Falcon used his wits and the wits of Dynomutt,
essentially playing the same character twice. The plagiarism was so obvious that DC Comics considered legal action. 38. The show was packaged with Scooby-Doo. Dynomutt never aired as standalone series. It was always packaged with Scooby-Doo as the Scooby-Doo/Dynomutt Hour.
Scooby-Doo, Dynomutt Hour! Scooby-Doo and Dynomutt!
Making it technically a supporting segment rather than independent show. ABC's strategy was pairing the proven hit Scooby with experimental new content, using Scooby's ratings to prop up weaker shows. This packaging meant Dynomutt benefited from Scooby's established audience while never having to prove it could attract viewers independently. When separated in syndication years later, Dynomutt performed poorly, demonstrating it had always been carried by Scooby's popularity rather than possessing inherent appeal. 37. Frank Welker voiced Dynomutt, using dog sounds. Voice actor Frank Welker performed Dynomutt primarily through mechanical dog sounds, whirs, beeps, barks, and yelps, rather than actual dialogue.
The thing that I did and I've always done is goofy sounds and noises.
Dynomutt spoke maybe 20 words per episode, communicating mostly through expressive noises and physical comedy. Welker's performance was essentially extended sound effects work rather than traditional voice acting. This minimal dialogue saved production costs, since Welker could record all of Dynomutt's sounds in under an hour per episode. The character's mechanical nature justified the limited vocabulary, though it also made Dynomutt less a character than a sound effects generating plot device that occasionally interfered with Blue Falcon's crime fighting. 36. Dynomutt's gadgets were stolen from Inspector Gadget. Dynomutt's extendable mechanical limbs, built-in gadgets, and malfunctioning technology were directly copied from Inspector Gadget, though both shows actually debuted around the same time through coincidental parallel development. The bumbling hero with malfunctioning gadgets concept wasn't original to either show, but derived from Get Smart and earlier spy comedies.
That's the top secret gadget phone. Is that you, Chief?
Dynomutt's gadgets always malfunctioned at worst possible moments, creating slapstick comedy that undermined any dramatic tension. The repetitive gadget deploys incorrectly, causes chaos. Blue Falcon must compensate, appeared in literally every episode, becoming tiresome rather than funny, through endless repetition without variation. 35. The animation budget was only $35,000 per episode. Each 11-minute segment cost approximately $35,000 to produce, extraordinarily cheap even by 1976 Saturday morning standards.
Wonder, you've got to get to the pilot's compartment and fly this jet before we crash into the mountain.
Contemporary action shows like Super Friends spent $75,000 plus per segment. The minimal budget forced extreme shortcuts. Characters stood motionless while only mouths moved. Backgrounds repeated constantly, and transformation sequences were recycled identically across every episode. Approximately 40% of each episode consisted of stock footage reused from previous episodes. The crude animation made fight scenes feel slow and unconvincing, with villains moving stiffly and action sequences lacking dynamic energy that could make superhero battles exciting. 34. The show featured the same plot. Every single episode, every Dynomutt episode followed identical structure. Villain commits crime, Blue Falcon and Dynomutt investigate. Dynomutt causes disaster through incompetence.
Landing, Dog Wonder! Except for a few minor repairs, you've saved the plane!
Villain captures them. They escape due to villain's incompetence. Final confrontation where Dynomutt accidentally defeats villain through clumsiness. This formula repeated across all 20 episodes without variation, making the series feel like the same episode aired repeatedly with different villain names. Writers made no attempt at plot innovation or character development. The creative bankruptcy demonstrated Hanna-Barbera's approach to Saturday morning content as disposable time filler requiring minimal effort rather than quality storytelling. 33. The villains were rejected, Scooby-Doo designs. Most Dynomutt villains were rejected monster designs from Scooby-Doo that had been deemed too silly or not scary enough for that show's mystery format.
And the machines that will make me the most brilliant and most powerful criminal in the world.
When Dynomutt needed villains, producers simply pulled these rejected designs from archives and created backstories around the existing artwork. This recycling saved character design costs, but resulted in villains that felt generic and interchangeable. Villains like the Gimmick, Lowbrow, and Queen Hornet had no memorable characteristics beyond their visual designs.
To set my first gimmick crime into action. When the city sleeps, the gimmick creeps.
The lazy villain creation demonstrated how little creative investment went into the show beyond minimum effort required to fill time slot. 32. Gary Owens recorded all his dialogue in 2 days. Voice actor Gary Owens recorded the entire season's worth of Blue Falcon dialogue during 2 marathon 8-hour sessions to minimize studio rental costs. Owens performed 20 episodes worth of lines consecutively, reading from scripts without rehearsal or context about episode storylines.
And used his wits and the wits of Dynomutt to help him out. But usually Dynomutts would get
This rushed recording meant his performance lacked emotional variation. Blue Falcon sounded identical whether facing danger, celebrating victory, or expressing frustration. The mechanical delivery made the character feel even more wooden and personality-free. Owens later admitted he had no memory of recording Dynomutt, calling it just another paycheck job among dozens of forgettable voice acting gigs. 31. The transformation sequence was reused 20 times. The sequence showing Radley Crown transforming into Blue Falcon and entering the Falcon's lair was identical animation reused in every single episode. This 45-second sequence consumed nearly 7% of each episode's runtime purely to save animation costs. The transformation added nothing narratively.
Dog Wonder, please. No high-technology telescoping arms.
Audiences knew the transformation would happen, and didn't need to see it repeatedly. The excessive reuse demonstrated Hanna-Barbera's willingness to bore audiences with repetitive content rather than invest in new animation. Modern viewers find the constant identical sequences tedious, but 1970s production standards considered this acceptable cost-saving practice. 30. The Falcon car was traced from the Batmobile. The Falcon car's design was so similar to the Batmobile that animators essentially traced Batman's vehicle with minor cosmetic changes, different color scheme, and slightly modified front end. The vehicle's capabilities, gadgets, and even the way characters entered it copied Batman directly. DC Comics' legal department sent cease and desist letters demanding design changes, but Hanna-Barbera argued enough differences existed to avoid copyright infringement. The near-identical vehicle design exemplified how shameless the Batman plagiarism was throughout the show's entire concept and execution. Blue Falcon was Batman in everything but name. 29. The show was canceled after only one season. ABC canceled Dynomutt after just one season and 20 episodes due to poor ratings and lack of merchandise sales. When separated from Scooby-Doo's supporting viewership, the show couldn't maintain audience interest independently. Toy companies rejected Dynomutt action figure proposals, calling the character unmarketable to children, who preferred actual superheroes over bumbling sidekicks. The cancellation demonstrated that Hanna-Barbera's formula of copying successful shows didn't guarantee success. Audiences recognized lazy imitation versus genuine creative effort. The quick cancellation meant no character development or ongoing storylines ever occurred, leaving the show as 20 interchangeable episodes. 28. Frank Welker voiced both Dynomutt and Fred Jones. Voice actor Frank Welker performed both Dynomutt and Fred Jones from Scooby-Doo during the same production period, recording both characters on the same days. The scheduling convenience allowed Hanna-Barbera to maximize Welker's studio time by having him voice multiple characters in different shows consecutively.
Still make it kind of a silly, goofy dog. It could be a lot of fun. Right, Blue Falcon?
Welker's dual roles meant the shows shared voice talent, reinforcing their connected nature as Hanna-Barbera's Saturday morning block programming. His ability to switch between Fred's straightforward heroism and Dynomutt's mechanical sound effects demonstrated impressive vocal versatility, though the studio's motivation was purely financial efficiency rather than artistic consideration. 27. The Falcon's lair was the Batcave. The Falcon's lair was the Batcave with different name, underground headquarters beneath Blue Falcon's mansion, accessed through secret entrance, filled with crime-fighting equipment and vehicles. The design copied the Batcave's layout, including computer systems, vehicle bay, and trophy room displaying souvenirs from past cases. No attempt was made to differentiate the hideout's function or aesthetic from Batman's established headquarters. The plagiarism extended to how characters used the space, with Blue Falcon studying clues and planning strategies exactly like Batman. The wholesale copying demonstrated that Dynomutt's creators had zero original ideas beyond make it Batman, but slightly different. 26. The show featured no character development whatsoever. Across 20 episodes, no character growth, relationship development, or ongoing storylines occurred. Blue Falcon and Dynomutt's dynamic remained static, competent hero frustrated by incompetent sidekick, without evolution or deepening friendship. Episodes were completely interchangeable and could be watched in any order without losing continuity because no continuity existed. Characters learned nothing from their adventures and made the same mistakes repeatedly. This creative stagnation reflected Hanna-Barbera's episodic reset button approach, where each episode returned characters to default state, preventing any meaningful storytelling or emotional investment from audiences seeking serialized narratives. 25. The villains were incompetent morons. Every villain in Dynomutt was incompetent buffoon whose plans failed through their own stupidity rather than heroes' competence. Villains monologued their schemes, left obvious clues, and made baffling tactical errors that guaranteed capture. This writing choice eliminated all dramatic tension.
I've got a plan that will put that goody two-shoes Bluebird in jail.
Audiences knew villains would defeat themselves regardless of heroes' actions. The incompetent villains made Blue Falcon's detective work meaningless since criminals essentially solved mysteries by accidentally revealing themselves. The pattern became so predictable that episodes felt like watching predetermined outcomes rather than suspenseful crime-fighting adventures, where heroes' skills and intelligence determined success. 24. The show's educational segments were legally required. FCC regulations mandated children's programming include educational content, so episodes concluded with brief safety tips delivered by Blue Falcon and Dynomutt. These segments had nothing to do with episode content and felt awkwardly tacked on. Blue Falcon would suddenly appear explaining fire safety or traffic rules after defeating criminals. Writers resented the educational requirement, viewing it as creative intrusion that disrupted narrative flow. However, the segments allowed Hanna-Barbera to classify the show as educational programming, qualifying for government tax incentives and favorable regulatory treatment. The educational content existed purely for regulatory compliance, not genuine educational mission. 23. Dynomutt's malfunctions made him liability, not asset. Dynomutt's constant malfunctioning made him actively detrimental to crime fighting rather than helpful. He caused more problems than he solved, with Blue Falcon consistently having to clean up Dynomutt's disasters while simultaneously fighting villains. Any rational superhero would have deactivated Dynomutt after the first mission disaster. The show never addressed why Blue Falcon tolerated such catastrophically incompetent sidekick. The premise required audiences to ignore that keeping Dynomutt operational was a terrible decision endangering innocent lives. This logical inconsistency demonstrated writers prioritized slapstick comedy over coherent storytelling or character motivation. 22. The show was animated in 3 different countries. Production was split between studios in South Korea, Taiwan, and the Philippines simultaneously to minimize costs. Each studio animated different episodes without coordination or consistent character model sheets, resulting in Dynomutt's appearance varying wildly between episodes. His size, proportions, and mechanical details changed constantly depending on which studio handled that episode. Some episodes featured relatively smooth animation, while others looked barely finished with jerky movements and mismatched character designs. The inconsistent quality made the show feel like multiple different series rather than cohesive production, though most child viewers watching on small televisions didn't notice these variations. 21. The theme song was written in 15 minutes. Composer Hoyt Curtin wrote Dynomutt's theme song during a brief meeting, spending approximately 15 minutes creating the melody and basic structure. The lyrics were added later by another writer in similarly rushed process. The forgettable theme lacked the catchiness of Scooby-Doo's iconic song, with most viewers unable to recall Dynomutt's theme despite hearing it 20 times across the season. The rushed composition demonstrated how little importance Hanna-Barbera placed on musical identity for secondary shows. Theme songs were treated as disposable elements requiring minimal investment rather than crucial branding opportunities that could enhance show recognition and memorability. 20. Blue Falcon had no personality. Beyond competent, Blue Falcon was personality-free straight man whose only character trait was being frustrated by Dynomutt's incompetence. He had no hobbies, relationships, character flaws, or distinctive personality traits differentiating him from generic superhero template. Voice actor Gary Owens performed him as bland authority figure without humor, warmth, or memorable characteristics. The character was so forgettable that most viewers remembered Dynomutt, but couldn't recall Blue Falcon's name or appearance. The bland protagonist demonstrated that Hanna-Barbera considered the bumbling sidekick the actual star, with the competent hero merely existing as contrast for comedic incompetence. 19. The show featured terrible scientific inaccuracy. Dynomutt's mechanical abilities violated basic physics constantly. His extending limbs somehow contained unlimited length inside compact body. His transformations created mass from nowhere, and his gadgets operated without visible power sources. No explanation addressed how his mechanical systems functioned, or where his various gadgets were stored when not deployed. Writers simply ignored scientific plausibility entirely, treating Dynomutt as magical rather than mechanical. This casual disregard for internal logic was standard for 1970s children's programming, which assumed young audiences wouldn't question technological impossibilities. The scientific illiteracy potentially confused children about how actual machines and technology worked. 18. The criminals' motivations. Made no sense villains committed crimes for nonsensical reasons, stealing random objects, creating chaos without clear goals, or executing schemes with no apparent benefit. No villain had coherent motivation beyond being evil or wanting to rule big city through vague, undefined means. The shallow villain characterization reflected writers' lack of interest in creating believable antagonists with understandable goals. Villains existed purely as obstacles for heroes to overcome, rather than characters with their own perspectives and objectives. The one-dimensional villains made episodes feel like empty exercises in formula repetition rather than stories with meaningful conflict where both sides had legitimate stakes. 17. The show was released on home video before DVD existed. Dynomutt received VHS release in the 1980s, making it one of Hanna-Barbera's first shows released for home video rental market. However, sales were catastrophically poor. Video stores reported Dynomutt tapes gathered dust, while Scooby-Doo tapes rented constantly. The failed home video release demonstrated the show lacked nostalgic appeal, even among viewers who'd watched it during original broadcast. Warner Brothers never released Dynomutt on DVD or Blu-ray, considering it commercially worthless property not worth restoration or preservation costs. The show exists in streaming purgatory, occasionally appearing on services, then disappearing when licensing expires due to minimal viewer interest. 16. Big City. Had no actual citizens episodes rarely showed big city citizens despite supposedly taking place in major metropolitan area. Streets were empty except for main characters and villains, creating eerie ghost town atmosphere. The absent population saved animation costs. Drawing and animating crowds was expensive, so writers set scenes in conveniently empty locations. The deserted city made villains' crimes seem pointless. Who were they stealing from or threatening if nobody lived there? The empty setting accidentally made the show feel post-apocalyptic, as if some disaster had eliminated the population, but superhero and villains continued fighting anyway out of habit. 15. The show's merchandise failed completely. Toy companies produced minimal Dynomutt merchandise, a few action figures, lunchboxes, and coloring books, which sold poorly and were quickly discontinued. Retailers reported children weren't interested in toys featuring incompetent sidekick character when they could buy actual superheroes like Batman or Superman. The merchandise failure meant Hanna-Barbera generated almost no licensing revenue from the show, making it financial disappointment despite acceptable Saturday morning ratings. The lack of toy sales contributed to cancellation since 1970s. Children's television existed primarily to sell merchandise. Without commercial product tie-ins, shows were considered failures, regardless of viewership numbers. 14. Dynomutt was more popular in reruns than original. Run the Show performed better in syndication throughout the 1980s than during its original 1976 to 1977 broadcast, finding audiences who missed or ignored it initially. Syndication on weekday afternoons introduced Dynomutt to new generation of viewers watching after school. However, this delayed success was too late to matter. By the time Dynomutt found audiences through reruns, Hanna-Barbera had moved on to other properties and had no interest in reviving it. The syndication popularity demonstrated that shows sometimes need time to find audiences, but network television's immediate ratings demands don't allow that development period. 13. Voice actors recorded, separately, never meeting. To save studio rental costs, voice actors recorded individually at different times, rather than ensemble recording sessions where actors performed together. Gary Owens and Frank Welker never recorded in the same room, performing Blue Falcon and Dynomutt's interactions separately without hearing each other's performances. This isolation created wooden, unnatural character interactions lacking authentic conversational energy. Modern animation considers ensemble recording essential for performance chemistry, but 1970s cost-cutting prioritized budget over quality. The separate recording forced voice director to read other characters' lines as reference, creating performances that felt disconnected and lifeless rather than dynamic character relationships. 12. The show featured blatant product placement. Multiple episodes featured characters eating specific cereal brands or using identifiable products. Paid product placement in children's programming. General Mills, the show's sponsor, demanded their cereals appear prominently in episodes as condition of advertising purchase. Background shots showed cereal boxes with recognizable branding, and characters occasionally mentioned breakfast foods by name. This shameless commercialism in content aimed at children was standard practice before regulations limited advertising in children's programming. The product placement blurred lines between entertainment and advertising, essentially making episodes into extended commercials rather than independent creative content. 11. The Falcon's Lair location changed between episodes. Continuity errors meant the Falcon's Lair's location varied, sometimes beneath Blue Falcon's mansion, sometimes in separate underground facility, occasionally accessible through different entrance points. The inconsistent geography resulted from different writers not coordinating location details and no series Bible documenting established settings. Animation studios working separately created contradictory visual interpretations. These continuity failures demonstrated how little Hanna-Barbera cared about internal consistency, treating each episode as isolated rather than building coherent fictional universe. The geographic contradictions made Big City feel like impossible space where locations moved randomly rather than actual city with consistent layout. 10. The show was revived multiple times and failed repeatedly. Dynomutt appeared in various Hanna-Barbera crossover specials and team-up shows throughout the 1980s to 1990s, including Laugh Olympics and Yo Yogi, attempting to maintain cultural relevance. Each revival failed to generate renewed interest or merchandise sales. A 2021 Jellystone reboot reimagined Dynomutt with completely different personality and design, demonstrating even Hanna-Barbera recognized the original characterization was unsuccessful. The repeated failed revivals proved the character lacked enduring appeal. Unlike Scooby-Doo, who remained consistently popular, Dynomutt was forgotten immediately and never successfully recaptured audience attention despite multiple attempts across decades. 9. The show had no ongoing storylines or continuity. Episodes were completely self-contained with no ongoing storylines, character arcs, or developing relationships across the season. No villain returned, no mysteries carried over, no character growth occurred. This episodic isolation meant the show could be watched in any order without confusion, but also prevented emotional investment in characters or long-term storytelling. The lack of serialization reflected 1970s television's assumption that viewers missed episodes due to broadcasting unpredictability, requiring complete stories within single episodes. However, this approach also made characters feel static and stories feel repetitive, since no progression or change ever occurred. 8. The writers had never read superhero comics. Most staff writers were completely unfamiliar with superhero comics and worked purely from brief character descriptions without understanding the genre's conventions or appeal. This resulted in stories that felt generic and missed what made superhero narratives compelling. No secret identity drama, no moral dilemmas, no compelling villains with interesting motivations. Writers treated it as slapstick comedy show that happened to feature superhero costumes rather than actual superhero storytelling. One writer later admitted they thought Blue Falcon and Batman were different names for the same character, revealing profound ignorance about the source material they were supposedly adapting. 7. The show featured casual police incompetence. Big City's police force was portrayed as completely incompetent, unable to solve any crimes without Blue Falcon's intervention. Police chief constantly called Blue Falcon rather than using actual police resources, suggesting institutional failure of law enforcement. This portrayal raised questions about why Blue Falcon didn't train police rather than personally handling every crime. The incompetent police trope reinforced problematic idea that vigilante justice was necessary because legitimate institutions couldn't function properly. The show never addressed legal or ethical issues around unaccountable superhero operating outside government oversight while mocking official law enforcement. 6. Gary Owens used his Space Ghost voice actor Gary Owens performed Blue Falcon, using essentially the same voice he used for Space Ghost in Hanna-Barbera's other superhero show. The vocal similarity made the characters sound identical, despite being completely different heroes in separate universes. Owens' distinctive announcer-style delivery, borrowed from his radio career, fit both characters, but revealed how little differentiation existed in his superhero voice work. The recycled voice performance demonstrated Hanna-Barbera's approach of hiring same actors to perform similar characters across different shows, creating unintentional vocal continuity, suggesting shared universe, despite no intended connection. 5. The show's fight scenes were embarrassingly bad. Action sequences featured stiff, slow-moving combat where punches clearly didn't connect, and characters barely moved during supposed fights. Limited animation made fight choreography impossible. Characters stood mostly still while making hitting motions, with impact suggested through sound effects rather than actual animated contact. The terrible fight animation made superhero battles feel boring and unconvincing rather than exciting. Children's action figures produced more dynamic combat scenarios than the actual show. The failed action sequences demonstrated that superhero content requires investment in quality animation to succeed. Audiences won't accept static superhero fights regardless of how young the target demographic. 4. The show's educational value was zero. Despite claiming educational content through required safety segments, Dynomutt taught children nothing useful and potentially reinforced negative lessons. That incompetence was amusing rather than dangerous. That authority figures tolerate repeated failure without consequences, and that problems solve themselves through luck rather than skill or knowledge. The show had no moral lessons beyond bumbling sidekicks are funny, which isn't actually a lesson. The educational segments were transparently cynical regulatory compliance rather than genuine attempt to educate audiences. The show represented worst tendencies of Saturday morning television, empty calories content designed to occupy children's attention without enriching their minds or imaginations. 3. Foreign dubbing made the show worse. International versions of Dynomutt faced unique challenges since Frank Welker's mechanical sound effects were difficult to replicate across languages. Foreign voice actors attempted to recreate Dynomutt's whirs and beeps, but often sounded different, changing the character's entire personality through vocal interpretation differences. Some countries added dialogue where none existed originally, having Dynomutt speak actual words rather than mechanical sounds. These localization changes created incompatible international versions where the character functioned completely differently. The dubbing difficulties demonstrated how Dynomutt's character design, built around English-language sound effects, didn't translate effectively for global audiences, limiting international appeal. 2. The show proved the Scooby-Doo formula didn't transfer. Dynomutt demonstrated that Scooby-Doo's success couldn't be mechanically replicated by copying the formula, bumbling animal sidekick plus mystery-solving format, without understanding what made Scooby work. Scooby succeeded through genuine character chemistry, clever mystery plotting, and Scooby's cowardice being relatable rather than annoying. Dynomutt's incompetence was frustrating rather than endearing, because it endangered lives rather than just causing minor problems. The show's failure taught Hanna-Barbera that surface-level formula copying, without deeper understanding of what makes characters appealing, leads to hollow imitations that audiences reject. Successful shows require genuine creativity, not just assembly of proven elements. 1. It became symbol of Hanna-Barbera's creative bankruptcy. Dynomutt, Dog Wonder, became industry shorthand for creatively bankrupt television. Shows created through formula assembly rather than original ideas, relying on proven elements from successful properties without understanding what made those properties work. The show represented everything wrong with 1970s Saturday morning animation: shameless plagiarism, minimal animation budgets, repetitive storytelling, non-existent character development, and cynical commercialism prioritizing merchandise over quality. Critics cited Dynomutt as example when arguing Saturday morning television was intellectual wasteland rotting children's brains. The show's legacy isn't its content, but what it represented: an industry's willingness to produce lowest common denominator content for quick profits. So there you have it. 40 wild facts proving Dynomutt. Dog Wonder wasn't just a forgotten Hanna-Barbera show. It was a calculated attempt to copy Scooby-Doo's success that failed because shameless formula replication and Batman plagiarism can't replace actual creativity. And incompetent sidekicks are only funny when they're not actively dangerous liabilities who should have been deactivated after causing their first disaster.